Season of the Splicer is just around the corner, just a few days away, in fact. So I thought now would be the perfect time to pull up a chair and share with you my thoughts, concerns, and hopes for Destiny 2's next season and beyond from a storytelling and narrative perspective. Welcome back, Guardians, to another Embrace Destiny video. Kaz BHD here. Today we're doing a lot of things differently. If you're a fan of the channel, you'll know that most of my videos are focused on very specific topics that are well-researched, thought out, scripted videos. Today, we're going freelance. We're sitting here comfortably. I've got the microphone in hand, and I'm just kind of sharing my thoughts. If you somehow haven't heard the news about Destiny 2's next season, hello, welcome to the month of May. Yeah, basically, you can catch all the details on Bungie's webpage if you want. If you want to go in completely blind, completely unaware of what is happening, what is coming up, then you're going to want to skip this video. It's probably just a video that's going to look silly in retrospect. Hopefully hopefully my concerns are unfounded. Maybe I'll look like a bit of a prophet or somebody working on the inside. But yeah, if you want to avoid story details, then you're going to want to jump out of here and maybe come back a little bit later. Maybe in a week, who knows. For those of you who don't mind spoilers but need a little bit of updating, you can check it all out on Bungie.net under their last blog post or on their seasonal write-up. Essentially, there are two main story-driven parts of this coming season that are related. The first is that the Vex have plunged the last city into an endless night. Somehow they have blanketed the city in a simulation, or they've done something that prevents the city from basically feeling daylight. It's an attack on the last city from the Vex. The other half of the coin is, or the other side of the coin is Mithrax is back. Ikora reveals that Mithrax, Kell of the House of Light, may be able to help us deal with the Vex. Mithrax is noted as a sacred splicer who has knowledge of machines, so who better to stop the machine-based race than Mithrax? So let's start with the immediate gut reaction and the good, and then let's share a little bit about my concerns, and then we'll go positive again toward the end. So the good, I mean, the season aesthetically looks very interesting. I mean, people have made the joke about, there's no textures, whoever does textures at Bungie is taking the month off or whatever, but it's cool. It's Tron, it's Cyberpunk, it's, all of that meeting Destiny is very cool. It does make me wonder why, like from a lore perspective, is there something different? Why does the Vex network look different than we've ever seen it before? So that's interesting. And Mithrax being back. Mithrax, if you don't know, he's a character who's been in and out of the game since the start of Destiny 2, and he's very interesting. The short version of him, you can catch a longer video from My Name is Bife. He just put out a video on him, and I'm sure countless others. Mithrax was a fallen captain. Well, he was a fallen who was held prisoner by the Awoken and eventually became their friend, or at least friends with some of them. He learned their language, he learned their ways, and he eventually began to actually ally himself with certain other Guardians. If you check out the lore tabs from Lord of Wolves, the Queensbreaker, and the Outbreak Perfected, you can see that Mithrax had been running in a fire team with a Hunter and Warlock. In-game, in terms of how we interact with him, he is the one who helps warn us that Aramis was trying to steal the Outbreak, Outbreak Prime, Outbreak Perfected, from the old tower. And if you played this game for a while, you might remember the 0-hour Outbreak Perfected mission. Mithrax is the captain you interacted with on the farm. He was hiding out there, he warns you of this, and he goes in. And ever since that moment, probably even a bit earlier, I've been extremely optimistic and excited about the possibility of working with the Awoken, or sorry, with the Eliksni. Why? Why is that? So this is going to talk about, I'm probably going to bleed between the good and the bad here, and I hope that's fine. Again, I'm going off script. I've been excited for a long time about working with the Eliksni. If you look into their story, and I actually have a history of the Fallen, of the Eliksni video that I put together with my good friend Somlab, if you're interested, and Mrs. Hyven, who was with the Guardians of Lore. If you're interested, the Eliksni have a story that's very similar to ours. The Traveler used to be above their world, they had a golden age, they had a collapse of their own, and they've been living as kind of pirate technological spider refugees ever since. And it's a bit of a sad story, right? If your whole society is focused on this one powerful being, and that powerful being leaves and knocks your world into chaos, how do you rebuild? How do you react? And also from the tower and the citizens of the last city and that perspective, we need allies, right? We saw last season how interesting it could be to have some kind of a partial agreement or an armistice with the Cabal, right? I think that we could definitely have something like that with the Eliksni. Now, there's a history of bad blood there. If you go into the lore, there's, the Battle of Twilight Gap and Six Fronts, and it's tough. Depending on how familiar you are with the story or how much you are concerned with the past, it's either a really interesting or a really scary and dangerous idea that we would maybe ally ourselves with the Eliksni. I mean, of all the races, they've had the longest kind of conflict with us. And we didn't get to experience some of those early stories, but it's everywhere, right? The Eliksni are the first enemy you run into, and they, in many ways, represent kind of the iconic Destiny enemy, maybe besides the Hive. The Hive are just basically pure evil most of the time. That's how they appear. But the Eliksni appear to be our main run-of-the-mill everyday villain. So, anyway. So I'm excited. I'm excited about all that. Where is the problem, though, Kaz? Why are you making this video? What are the concerns? Well, in the trailer, one of the things it talks about is, you have to go and you have to save the city. And my big problem is, why? Who cares? No, I mean it. I'm asking you. Do you care about the last city? Do you? Are you sure that people live there? Are you quite positive? Are you sure it's not a mirage? Maybe the last city, as you look over the tower right now, maybe it's a simulation already. You've never been there, have you? Now, maybe you have. A lot of Guardians have their own stories to tell, and they craft them in between the pages of the lore and the story that's presented in-game, and I respect that. I do that myself. Maybe you have, but in-game, we have not been to the last city, and in-game, we have not really interacted with people in the last city, and this is a major problem that's been happening for a long time. I've said this the entirety of playing the Destiny franchise, that I get a little tired of going over there and dealing with a threat, going over there and fighting a bad thing, right? I think personally, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a great premise. It allows you to go to strange worlds and seek out like artifacts and you get to investigate cool ships. I mean, the Glycon from the Presage mission. That's really cool, and it's alien territory. It's not really that familiar to us, right? But if every single threat that we face takes place far away, it's hard to feel threatened by it. And even if you are, it's hard to feel that the city is threatened by it. I mean, let's look at our expansions, right? Red War is obviously the anomaly, so we'll go past that for just a quick second. But Curse of Osiris, right? Okay, Kaz, you're pulling at low-hanging fruit here. I get that. Warmind. Oh no, a machine and a god are on another world. Okay, fine, right? Forsaken was mostly a personal story, and that we'll come back to that in a second. Shadowkeep is scary, and it's a little closer to home. The pyramid of the Black Fleet on the moon, right? Beyond Light is dangerous in its potential, but again, it's far away, right? The only time we've ever had a real threat to the last city really was the Red War. And I always feel that campaign did only a half measure, right? Nothing against it really. It's several years old now, so it is what it is, or what it was. But when I saw the trailer and I saw some of the concept art, there were like literally people removing rubble from Guardians, lightless Guardians. And I thought, wow, like we're going to meet the people of the city. We're going to work with them. Then you meet Hawthorne and you're going to work with her, and she's going to be kind of a bridge between the Guardians and the people. And it didn't really go that far, Again, this is all in-game, right? If we talk lore, there's more that's written behind the scenes, but in-game, what you're presented with, what you're delivered with is very light. It's very shallow. Hawthorne's character has not been involved really anything since, and even if you look at Guardian Games, they say, hey, Guardian Games is like a thing for the whole city, but it's not. It's for Guardians. And even if Guardian Games was about the civilians kind of watching or betting or interacting, there's very little of that flavor in the game. There's a bit more in Destiny 2 than Destiny 1, just because there are more people in the tower. But really, that's been my main problem with the immersion of the game. Now, I'm not saying we need to have a whole social space. I'm not even really complaining per se about what we have. What I'm saying is that very little in-game focus and attention has been done to draw our perspective, or to show us the perspective of the people we're supposed to be protecting, right? And without that, then 1, it's hard to feel like a hero. 2, it's hard to feel like we've accomplished anything. And 3, for a season that focuses on this, that says, hey, the last city is under threat, it's hard to feel that closely connected to it. Here's an example, right? Let's say you live in a city or near one, and there's another city, 2 hours away by car, that you've never really been in before. People live there. You may even know people who've been there, but you don't have any connection to it. Maybe you know about their sports teams, whatever. You can put them on the map, but you've never actually been there. If this were a movie and something really inconvenient was going to happen to them, all of their, I'm trying to think of like a non-real world example here. I don't know. All of the food in the city, for some reason, rotted overnight, and now they have to scramble to order more food. Obviously, as a decent person, you're going to feel concern. Worry. Maybe you'll help. Maybe you'll donate. Great. But it hits you a little closer to home if it's your city. Or if it's your home. If you come home and your fridge has been open and all your food is spoiled, you feel rage. You feel frustration, fatigue, anxiety. You feel a lot of these things because it's personal. Right? So that's what I'm trying to say, is that the last city doesn't feel personal. And I have to tell you, I don't know about you, but I probably on the upper edge of the spectrum of Guardians who've been looking at the last city. Every time I play Destiny, I literally spend minutes of a time sitting around looking at the last city, different angles, trying to get different pictures. I think it's great. I like that we have a place to call home, and I like having stakes, as in I like knowing what it is I'm out there protecting. Some days it's challenging to do the grind and to face off against people in the crucible. It can be really frustrating, but at the end of the day, I feel like, you know what? Yeah, I made a difference. I did that nightfall, which stops the enemy from harming the people of the last city. And it's a silly thing, but it comes down to player immersion, which is what we're talking about here. Without a real connection to the last city, it's hard to feel immersed in the story. It's hard to care, right? And that creates a distance that can cause some other problems. We'll talk about those problems in a moment. The other lack of immersion is with the Eliksni. So related to the last city, you have this issue that the Eliksni they're under threat. They're under peril. ever since, I mean, it's interesting to see how the story has changed, because in Destiny 2, the story was basically, hey, the Guardians kicked the Fallen's butt so hard that the only Fallen who are left are all united under the purple banner of the House of Dusk, and they're all your enemy, right? Then we start seeing ones like Mithrax who are kind of friendly, strange, doesn't really go anywhere. And now we get in Beyond Light, literally the last, 10 to 20% of the campaign of Beyond Light was save the people, save the Eliksni from Europa, from House Salvation. There are some Fallen who are fallen and they wish to ally themselves with Aramis and the darkness, and there are others who just want to live. And Guardian, put the ones who want to live onto a ship, send them to Mithrax, right? It's very kind of refugee kind of story. And it's really interesting to see the kind of general level of feeling and perspective of the average player. Because I think for the average player, you know, they're just out there to have fun and shoot stuff and get loot, and they don't really, maybe they don't connect with the game or the story that much. They don't think about it, maybe, which is a good thing, because we lore people tend to kind of spin our wheels a little bit too much. But then Bungie puts out a trailer, and they're like, hey, you're going to ally yourself with this guy. And we're like, okay, cool. The spider is also an Eliksni, and we've worked with him. Fine. Fallen babies, Smollen, Draglets, Lilixni, whatever, hatchlings, whatever you want to call them, right? People are going nuts, in a good way. There's so many posts, so much art. Look at this week at Bungie, right? 10 different artists featured for their fallen baby art. And it's crafty for a number of reasons. One, obviously, it sells. People love Baby Yoda. People love Baby Groot. They fall in love with this kind of thing very quickly. But it's brilliant from a storytelling perspective, because one of the fastest ways for you to endear yourself, or for a character or a race to endear itself to the audience, is to have some vulnerability, right? To have a child or these refugees or somebody that needs to be protected. It can pull on that heartstring. So it's kind of interesting to see how quickly people have gone from not even thinking about the Fallen at all, or not even knowing the difference between the Fallen and the Eliksni, to, oh my god, I will protect them with my life. Which is good in a way. It's good to see that the capacity for compassion is quite high. The downside, there's a number of people in the community, and you know who you are. You're probably not watching this video, but yeah, there's a number of people who like to make some pretty inappropriate jokes, I think. And I'll just say this. I know it's a video game. I know that it's not real. I know it's completely fictional. But stories are important. Stories represent a number of things. Stories are more than just taking things that can't happen and smashing them together and throwing a bunch of CG at it, right? Stories represent how we feel, how we think, how we would interact. And maybe you don't think about that when you play Destiny. You're never... I'm not much of a weapon person in real life, but I know a lot about weapons in Destiny 2, right? I probably have never punched anything in the last, 20 years, but I play a Titan, so, right? But how you interact with a story is important, and I know that it might be kind of funny from a very abstract point of view to imagine, playing dodgeball with a fallen hatchling where they are the dodgeball and throwing them around and stuff, or worse. Trust me, I've heard worse in the last few days. But Destiny is a world that people like to live in, they like to play in, and I'm not saying you need to completely forgive the Eliksni, but if your first thought upon seeing a baby, or even a fictional creepy bug alien baby, whatever, if your first thought is violence, maybe take a moment to think about that and wonder where that's coming from. Now, to your credit, again, just because an alien race shows me a baby doesn't mean that I necessarily need to forgive them. And if you're going by the story and the lore, there's a lot of room for stubbornness and a lack of forgiveness from Guardians, from the citizens of the Last City, from the Vanguard, right? Some of them fought in Twilight Gap, Battle of the Six Fronts. I mean, the Titan symbol is literally a symbol from the Battle of Six Fronts. It's built into the Titan identity, this defeating the Fallen. The Fallen have been forever, our enemy. Saint 14 talks about in his early days about how he saw Fallen eating children, eating babies. And it's horrible. It's horrifying. But of course, you can't apply the actions of one to the actions of all. So all I'm saying is it's a bit of a balance, right? I really hope that Bungie takes their time this coming season and establishes both a connection with the Last City and the people in it, and a connection with these Eliksni and the plight of the fallen Eliksni people. We have a season, let's do it week after week, right? It's a classic thing. You see this all the time. Two characters meet, they don't like each other, and then over time there's a series of adventures and things that helps you understand them both, and eventually they can become friends. And I hope that happens. We saw that with Crow, actually. And I mean, you may have your own opinions on Crow, but you have to admit that the way that the story was told, it starts off with, who is this guy? Why are we working with him? Okay, he's kind of interesting and useful, definitely useful. We use him for now. To, oh, he actually cares. And he's actually a person with his own personality. And he's actually, maybe, if you feel this way, he's likable, right? And eventually, in game, he becomes our ally. Because he's more than just useful. He becomes important to us and to our story. So I hope the same thing. How do I want to see that? I don't know if we're going to get that with the city, to be honest. I think we're going to get it from the Eliksni. We'll probably get it in the lore, but in game, I would love to see this. I would love to see, obviously we need to know what exactly is happening. Is the city in some kind of bubble simulation, or something bigger happened? How did it happen? How do the people in the city feel about this? I mean, are they seeing this? Or do they see a normal everyday life, everything is great, but they're in this bubble that they can't see, right? Is it like the Matrix to them? Are they trapped in a world, in a prison they can't see? I don't know. If we can communicate with them, then what's the simulation actually doing? Is it, I don't know. Again, I don't know. It's important to remember that back in, what was that, like October, we had a web lore concerning the citizens of the Last City, where they where people expressed concern. They were afraid. They were saying, this city isn't safe anymore, and it hasn't been for a long time. And some of them were like, let's go and find the free capitals, and other people are saying, no, it's dangerous and the free capitals don't exist. And other people are saying, well, it doesn't matter if they don't exist, it's probably safer than here. So there is dissent from the Last City. And I want to know, is this chapter going to continue on that thread, build it, develop it? Or will we regain their trust? Will we use this, and will this opportunity be a good moment for us to directly interact with the Last City, right? And save them and save our connection and our reputation with the people of the Last City. Yeah. I think I have a couple other quick thoughts here. Let me just take a look. Ikora's voice actress changing. There's a couple of things on that. One, happy to have her back in the story. Two, the actress seems to be doing a good enough job. Three, some people in my community are wondering if it even is a new actress, because the person is doing a good job either way. The other thing to consider, I've heard nobody say this, there's nothing saying that Ikora's voice actress will forever be changed. Right? I mean, I don't know. When they recast Anna Bray, they had the new voice actress. She went back and recorded everything that Anna Bray said, even stuff from the Warmind campaign. So they just completely removed all of the old voice actress's line dialogue and put the new ones in. Are they going to do that here? Well, Ikora hasn't really had much dialogue except for a couple of lines in Forsaken Shadowkeep and some idle dialogue. So are they going to re-record it, or are they only going to record this season's worth of dialogue? I don't know. And you could see a world where they could bring back Gina Torres for a big expansion for Witch Queen, or maybe if things change with her schedule or whatever. I don't know. I don't know the business. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I'm just saying it's an option. And even if it isn't, even if Gina Torres never comes back, Ikora is a great character. I'm glad to see more of her. I think that while we may have been disappointed in the past with some voice actors and actresses changing, I think ultimately it served the story and it moved things along. I mean, was I a little sad that Cade's literal last words were not uttered by Nathan Fillion? A little. But you can't really argue Nolan North did a really good job. So, yeah. So I guess that's pretty much everything. I apologize. I wanted this to be 10 minutes and I'm about triple that. So, yeah, bottom line, I'm excited for the season. I hope that they bring me in and they make me care about it. If they do anything close to what they did this season, they're going to knock it out of the park. Other comments that other people have regarding like mechanics and stuff like that, we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But on a narrative and immersion perspective, please, Bungie, help us care about the Last City. Help us understand the Eliksni. Oh, quick thought on retcon, right? People are saying, well, you know, he wasn't a sacred splicer before. Why not? Why not? There's retconning where you wipe history and you rewrite it, and there's retconning where someone tells you one thing and you go deeper, right? That's the thing with the lore that we always have to remember. Even people like me who think we know it fairly well, there are gaps in the margins that will be written in later. There are pages missing, right? I always say that Destiny's lore is like a library with all of the lore printed in all of the books, but the pages of those books and the books themselves have been ripped out, rearranged, approached from a few different perspectives and genres. And so there is room for change and there's room for extra stuff. For me, this makes perfect sense. And again, a high praise. I think it's very cool. What a cool idea. You have a race that is predominantly driven by machines and machine logic. Bring in a character who, you know, is known for having like a techno priest, basically. Some kind of religious-esque, technologically savvy character. Now, I would like to point out that the Vex aren't entirely mechanical, and one of the things that makes them very complicated to defeat or understand or predict is that they don't think like we do. And I don't know if much has been done to understand the psychology of the Eliksni, but I would imagine that their thought processes are a little bit closer and similar to ours than to the Vex. So it's kind of like you can defeat the machine, but you may not defeat the one driving the machine, right? Yeah. Vault of Glass. Little disappointed that it's not coming back in terms of a narrative. Like, it doesn't seem to have a narrative tie-in. But I have two pieces of hope there. One, maybe they could do something lore-wise that the Vault of Glass itself has no direct tie-in, but being able to explore the vault again or have missions that may surround the vault. There is a story told in Destiny 2, namely the Ishtar scientists and Praedyth, who are kind of stuck in different, not corridors of time, but different timescapes, different simulations, and they are trying to break free from that. And the last we heard during Season of Undying in the Aspect lore book, it seems like they were getting to be fairly successful. They could very well step out of the simulation at any time. I don't know. I hope that story continues. Probably not. It probably won't happen in game. It'll probably happen in lore. But if it does, we'll definitely talk about it then. Yeah. Okay. I think that's everything. Finally, this is a classic Midwestern North American goodbye, where you say goodbye 3 times before you're done. I want to say that if you enjoyed this kind of thing, this is the kind of stuff I usually talk about on my stream. You can see the link down below. I stream between 4 and 7 p.m. Eastern most nights. So usually at the beginning or the end of the stream, I go back to the tower and we just kind of talk about all this kind of stuff. So if you have questions, comments, drop them down below or come by the stream sometime and interact. I've got a Discord channel you can interact with as well. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited for it. I'm looking forward to covering it. More Vanguard report videos, right? Lore from an in-game Guardians perspective. And yeah, I just hope that everybody take a deep breath, relax, see where it goes. Mechanics can be changed. Stories can be built upon and delivered. And I think it's going to be all right. But I'm really hoping that this is a turning point in the story where we start to really connect more with the events. It's not bad thing happening at the edge of space over there. It's bad thing that is happening here at home, or that is at least connected to us or has ramifications to us that are a bit more personal and moving us all towards Witch Queen, right? Like, how great would it be? We have an armistice with the Cabal. We have some Eliksni. Oh, 4th goodbye. Darn it, this is how you go off script. Why is it only a small group of Eliksni? It says on the story page, a small group of Eliksni who wish to be closer to the Traveler. Why is it small? Where's the rest of them? I thought we saved like a bunch of them. Now, we only loaded them on 1 skiff, but what does that mean? Does that mean there's only like 20 Eliksni who don't want to be part of House Salvation? Is that it? Or is the small group just like the soldier militaristic group that Mithrax has, and he's kept the rest of the Eliksni hidden because he doesn't know whether he can trust us fully? That would be pretty neat. I have a theory on that, by the way. I'm not going to share it now. You can come by the stream and ask me, but maybe that's what'll happen. He'll form an alliance with us, and then later maybe we'll make room for the rest of the people in the farm or in the Bolsa district or somewhere, right? Somewhere they would live. I would love to see kind of like a Star Wars universe where we go to the bazaar or any kind of market space, and there's like a Cabal and an Eliksni, and I don't know, maybe not a Vex or a Hive, but you have a diversity of characters interacting in the same world. And finally, they want to be close to the Traveler, but do we want to be close to the Traveler? I mean, we learned with Beyond Light that we can harness the darkness without needing the entity of the darkness. So could we do the same thing with the light? That's a huge theory I have, by the way. So if it does happen, you heard it here first, or maybe last, depending on if you have really smart lore people around you speculating. But yeah, I think eventually Guardians will learn to harness the light without needing the Traveler. The speaker's always warned about the Traveler leaving. So what happens if we ally ourselves with the Eliksni under the premise of being closer to the Traveler, and then the Traveler leaves? Also, why is the Traveler letting the Vex, plunge the city into darkness? There always was this kind of hidden or suggested idea that the Traveler's presence kept certain enemies away, but that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. So, all right, I'm literally running out of breath here. So thank you all very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. If you want more structured content, feel free to check everything else out. If you like this kind of thing and want to hear more or in different directions, or you have ideas or suggestions on topics to cover, feel free to drop some comments below. It's been a real pleasure. I'll see you next season. As always, Guardians, be safe, be kind, and I'll see you all next time. Bye now.